All right, so pretty much the last thing I want to do is make a video putting myself out there like this, but I'm in recovery, have been for actively trying for a couple years now, and I do believe that in order to remain sober and get sober, we do have to, as alcoholics, help others. So this is me putting myself out there, and if this can help even just one person that they can relate to this or future videos that I'll make, then it's totally worth it to me. So here we go. First video on this, so I did write myself some notes. So if you hear like paper, that's just what it is. So I cover everything I want to cover in this first video. But start with this video is going to be on relapse. I'm a chronic relapser, have been. So I'll go through my brief story. I'll kind of go through the gist of it and then get to where I'm at now. But started drinking when I was 15. First time I ever got drunk was out of my parents' liquor cabinet by myself. Stole some or drank some Jose Cuervo tequila, then walked over to the high school homecoming football game. Completely hammered, loved it. I knew right then that I had found my release, what I'd been looking for. I was never that popular in high school, and that alcohol, being drunk, gave me that release. My teens were out of control. Once I discovered alcohol, I was full tilt. I mean, vodka, tequila, beer, whatever I could get my hands on, and I was uh, usually quite intoxicated. I didn't hold back. I didn't drink to get buzzed. Then in my 20s, it was a little more controlled. Had to hold down jobs and whatnot. But I would say probably 50% of the times I drank, which was almost nightly through most of my 20s, I would black out. I would show up to work still completely hammered in the morning. At this point, I was not drinking before work or during work in my 20s, but I was going to the bars every night. Very social drinker at that point in my 20s. Throughout most of my 20s, I'd go to the bar almost every night, and then when I got home, I'd continue drinking. My 30s, around 29, 30 is when the social aspect of drinking stopped, and that's when drinking really stopped being totally fun for me. It was still doing what I wanted it to do, which was allowing me to enter oblivion and just have a release, but I isolated. I would just strictly drink at home, get drunk on liquor or beer or both at home. I would rarely go to the bars. Once in a while I would, with a buddy or with my girlfriend or something, but I was mostly an at-home drinker. I still, around 29, 30, I'm 37 now, I'll be 38 in March, for reference, but around 29 or 30, like I said, I started isolating a lot, drinking almost nightly. I would take some days off, 1 or 2 days here or there, but mostly a nightly drinker and way to excess. Blacking out still half the time, not remembering things I did, waking up late for work, sleeping through alarms, waking up going to work drunk, still drunk from the night before most days. Then around 32, things started to take a darker turn and really my alcoholism progressed. I started drinking before work. I would pick up 2 or 3 tall cans of the highest percentage beer or malt liquor I could find, usually Mike's Harder Lemonade, a 24 ounce of that, and then I'd get 2 or 3 of those before work, or Voodoo Ranger Imperial, which is I think like 9.5%. Brush my teeth every time before I walked into work. I was paranoid about them smelling it on me, and when people did smell it, I'd say it was from the night before. Then I would take breaks at work. I'd take my 15-minute break at 9 or whatever, go drink another tall can or two, take my lunch, continue drinking. Wouldn't get just smashed at work because I did realize I couldn't be, stumbling around and slurring my words, but there were times where I'm pretty sure I was slurring, and probably it was pretty obvious I was drinking. I had a real good boss and coworkers at the time. I think deep down they knew I never got fired for it. They never said anything to me or accused me of drinking at work, but I think a lot of people knew. There were times I wouldn't remember dealing with customers. I worked in parts industry at that time in Idaho, and there were times I wouldn't remember dealing with customers from the day before. So that tells you kind of the extent of my drinking at work. Then I would get off work and leave to go home and just turn it up. It was full tilt when I got home, and then wake up and do it all over again. But I never really admitted. People told me, my parents, friends, some friends, they told me I was an alcoholic. From the time I was even a teenager. I went to rehab twice before I was 20 years old, and still I was not convinced I was an alcoholic. Even when I got my DUI when I was 29, I justified it by saying, well, all my friends have DUIs. Well, all my friends were alcoholics as well, in my opinion. That's why they had DUI or multiple DUIs. So I thought it was normal. I thought it was just a normal thing that people who drank got DUIs. Come to find out, it's not normal for normal drinkers to get DUIs. It's not at all. I would continue drinking and driving after I got my DUI. I was a little more careful about it, and sometimes I wouldn't, but I did. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I think even if a normal drinker got a DUI, they would not be drinking and driving again, and that didn't stop me. If I needed more booze and I was out of it, I was going to the liquor store or the beer store or whatever was closer. Sorry, I'm gonna look at my note here. Yeah, so around the time I was 31, 32, I started dating a woman who became my long-term girlfriend. She immediately saw red flags. I mean, immediately, within a month of dating me, she was like, oh, what did I get myself into? But she stayed with me. She, within 6 months, was telling me I was an alcoholic. I still didn't quite believe it. I don't know what I thought, but was in denial, plain and simple, of being an alcoholic. I thought my drinking was normal. Until the time, 33, 34, somewhere around then, I would make nightly promises to her and myself, meaning it in the bottom of my heart, saying, hey, this is the last night. Tomorrow I'm getting sober and I'm going to do it. Very rarely would I keep that. Sometimes I would go 4 or 5 days and then start drinking again. More often than not, I'd be at the gas station getting my tall cans before work the very next morning because I still had alcohol in my system. And, the phenomenon of craving, once you have alcohol, or once people like us, or me, alcoholics, have alcohol in their system, we're not going to stop. We need more. Sorry if you hear the background noise, that's my dog playing with her bone. But, so that's when I started to kind of think, I think I am an alcoholic, when I couldn't keep those promises, not only to my girlfriend, but to myself. I meant it from the bottom of my heart. I said, I have to get sober. I can't do this. This is an exhausting way to live, and I can't do it anymore. And I would fail the next day or next couple days later, whatever the time frame was. But I finally admitted to myself, 34-ish. So like 3 years ago that I still wasn't able to do it. So one day I forced myself to walk into an AA meeting. I looked up where they were in my town and walked in. And, that gave me some. I don't go to AA anymore, at least very rarely, but I would recommend it to anyone. I mean, it gave me longer stints of sobriety. It helped me immensely with core values and just being a better person in general. Sorry, my dog's bugging me. She doesn't know what I'm doing. She's not used to me sitting here talking to no one. But anyway, back on track. So AA did give me some core values. It gave me longer stints of sobriety. I started out, I relapsed after like 10 days or a week after my first meeting. But I made it, that was longer than I'd made it in a long time. And then, I made I don't know, a month or something like that, and then 2 months, and then had some real short intervals when I started drinking again. I'd have like 4 or 5 days again. You know, and I ended up getting like 3 months, then 3.5 months, and this last stint before this last relapse, I had 4.5 months. I've lost count how many relapses I've had, but in almost exactly 2 years of actively trying to stay sober, somewhere between 15 and 20. You know, I kept track at first, but there's no point. I mean, the fact is I'm a chronic relapser and something's got to change. So I have 25 tongue twister. I have 25 days sober right now. This time around, I've said this many times where I've been sober. Oh, this time feels different. This time I'm gonna get it. You know, this time actually does feel different, and the reason that is I've made some big changes this time. Big life changes. You know, I started exercising a lot. I'm lifting weights, doing push-ups and pull-ups at home, running. I started doing yoga, which I never thought I'd start doing that, but it's very relaxing. Gives me some peace of mind. You know, I live in Montana now. I'm a hunter, I'm a trapper, I'm an outdoorsman. So the thought that I would do yoga is kind of surprising to me, but it seems to be helping. You know, anything to get away from the habits of relapse. I've always believed in God, a Christian God. I've dove way deeper into that. I've started reading the Bible nightly and really trying to live by those principles. I never really read the Bible that much, and you know, I'd pray and believe in God, but I believe in living by those principles. For me, anyway, has seemed to help. Again, whatever people believe is totally fine. I don't judge. You know, if you don't believe in God, if you do, that's great. But for me, I had to find some principles that I could live by, and so I've been incorporating, you know, deep Christianity into my life, as well as the principles from AA that I learned. I have not, just because I don't really go to AA anymore, does not mean that it did not help me immensely. I would not be where I am today or having these longer stints of sobriety that I never dreamed I could have more than 4 or 5 days in the past without AA. It was a huge help to me, and I may go back or eventually, or you know, attend some meetings here or there. But for me, the fellowship that I'm in, the individual fellowship, just kind of stopped working for me. It wasn't keeping me sober. I've had these last two stints, or this last stint of 4.5 months was actually without AA, and I was not white knuckling it. I was at peace. I'm a chronic relapser, and I talk myself into, I can be doing real good for weeks, months even, and then, you know, very at peace with myself, feeling good, and then I get that little voice in my head that, despite having relapsed and ending in just darkness 17, 18, however many times it is, you know, approaching 20 times, I get that voice in my head, and it convinces me that, oh, maybe you can control it this time, or it's not going to be that bad, or I'm romanticizing my 20s and teens when it was actually fun. When it hasn't been fun for, like I said, I'm 37. It hasn't been fun since I was 29, 30, maybe earlier than that. It's become an addiction, well, not now physically, but when I'm drinking, I'm physically addicted. The mental addiction is what I'm fighting now. You know, that voice in my head. And for a long time, I thought it was just the desire to drink. I've come to realize through some serious introspection and talking with another alcoholic, actually backcountry, Stu, helped me, gave me some tips, and I started doing some introspection and looking into Stoicism to complement my Christianity, and I came to the realization, I had an epiphany one night. These relapses are not because I desire to drink, really. It's because I have a pattern of self-destruction. It's like I'm doing too good, I'm feeling too good. Well, we can't have that. I better blow my whole life up and go on a week-long bender where I don't draw a sober breath for one single minute. That was this last one. It was like 7 days of just absolute darkness. I mean, drinking before work again, going to work, drinking at work, getting off at lunch, drinking more, and then, you know, beer and malt liquor to kind of keep it together at work, if there's such a thing. Then getting off work and just going to town, just getting smashed, waking up and doing it all over again. And that was 7 days of that. And, you know, I came out of that, and I have no desire to do that. There's nothing in that life for me. I want to be present in the moment. Life is not meant to be lived drunk. I truly believe that. No matter what you believe spiritually, or even if you're an atheist, I do not believe that my God, you know, my higher power, created me to live life drunk. That's not how I want to live. It's not how I believe He wants me to live. You know, there's lightness in this world, and for me, alcohol brings nothing but darkness and pain. I mean, literally, when I go on benders, I shut all the blinds in my house, turn off the lights, and I might watch TV or something, but it's dark, and I am just going to town drinking, getting as drunk as I can. You know, stumbling my way down to the booze store down the street. Luckily, I don't have to drive, or didn't when I was drinking. I could walk there, and so I just walk there and go get more booze. And I mean, here in Montana, you can't buy beer before 8 a.m. And I would be there at 8 a.m. on the dot buying, you know, the liquor stores don't open until 11, so I'd be buying highest content beer I could get. And just the looks that they would give me, like, you could tell they're like, wow, this guy. And they'd even comment sometimes. They'd be like, oh, 8 o'clock on the dot. Or I'd walk in and they'd be like, oh, you're a few minutes early. Well, normal people are not at the beer store every day right when you can legally buy it, where the coolers are still locked up. So, I don't know. I hope this helps someone. I'm probably planning on making some more videos. I just kind of told myself that in order to stay sober, I have to help some people. And if this helps even one single person, then it's worth it to me. I don't really care about subscriptions. I don't plan on ever monetizing this. But if this helped you, please like and subscribe. That helps the algorithm for YouTube get it out to more viewers. So I hope you all are staying sober out there. If you're not, feel free to reach out. Let's do it together. I'm right there with you. I'm on 25 days, chronic relapser. So let's see if we can help each other out. Reach out in the comments. I will respond. All right. Have a great day. Bye.